I'm Starborn. Remember, to be a star, you have to shine your own light, follow your own path, and not be afraid of the darkness, because that's when stars shine brightest. Tonight's show, if you've been looking on our website, starborninstitute.org, is titled In the Long Run. And the reason why you and a lot of other people might be considering practical matters that have to do with the long run right now is because the planets are starting to build up in the practical, realistic earth signs, which are very security prone. And that is because there is an exact grand trine among planets in the earth signs today. And so you may be very focused on your budget right now, and that would include large corporations and government agencies and whole countries that can be looking at their budgets as well. And that is because it's a question of affordability. And whatever your long-term goals are, you may be wondering if you can afford them right now. Or if you're making an investment, you could be wondering how much it will gain in the long run. That could be in view of a pension or a retirement that you're thinking about. And so today we see that Mercury, the planet of the mind and of planning, is in a financial sign, Taurus, and it is at 14 degrees. Taurus rules the traditional second house of how you make your money and what you spend it on. So it does rule investments, and it does rule the whole New York Stock Exchange as well. And so that Mercury in Taurus is trining Jupiter in Virgo, another earth sign. Mercury is the ruler of Virgo, so it's in really harmonious aspect to the sign it rules. And Virgo has Jupiter in it right now, which rules abundance. That planet is also at 14 degrees, so it's sort of an exact trine right now between those two. And they are trining Pluto in Capricorn, which can rule powerful people or people who can make policy or change policy in large corporations or governments or in any kind of agencies. So it can rule sort of people at the top or management that can be thinking about the long run, because they may want to be staying in business for a very long time, and you've got to be able to afford everything. And so all of us now, for the rest of this month, and certainly in the month of May when there is a new moon in Taurus, we are going to be more and more focused on what we can afford. And that is because, yes, Taurus rules the second house of how you make your money and what you spend it on, and it is a fixed financial sign, but it is trining Virgo, and Virgo rules the sixth house of employment. So it rules your job, and it can rule matters that are connected to employment, like your wages or your health or the cost of health care. And Virgo also rules details and analysis and problem solving and service to others. And so a lot of that is going on right now. And then Capricorn rules your 10th house of career. And you're standing in the public eye, so it rules your public reputation. And Capricorn is ruled by Saturn, the planet of time. And so it simply means that a lot of people can be thinking about, okay, as time marches on, what can I afford? And that is why there's going to be much more of a focus on how things are going to play out, or how they can be affordable in the long run right now. At the same time, there are planets in a trine in fire signs, and that is because the Sun, Venus, and Uranus today are in Aries, the sign of new beginnings, and Uranus is a malefic planet, and that is because it rules sudden change and rebellion and freedom as well, and computers and anything that has to do with electronics or the future. Those three planets in Aries are trining Mars and Saturn in Sagittarius, which rules the higher mind, religion, philosophy for your colleges and universities, and all international bodies and foreign countries. But Mars and Saturn are malefic planets. They're certainly being well backed up by those planets in Aries, though. And yet, Saturn is already retrograde, and on Monday, Two other planets are going retrograde. Mars in Sagittarius, so both planets in Sagittarius will be going backwards in their orbit, and that will weaken them and slow them down. And then Pluto is in Capricorn right ahead of them, and it too is going retrograde on Monday. Mars and Pluto are the rulers of Scorpio, the other fixed financial sign. And with the rulers of that sign going backward or retrograde, it simply means that all of us can be reviewing the things that Scorpio rules, which is credit, debt, taxes, which is right about this time of year anyway, and inheritance, insurance proceeds, or even money laundering. It's money that's coming in through any other source. That's what Scorpio rules. But since it also rules justice, I'm wondering if this isn't a time when people who have been gambling or people who have been involved in cover-ups might be about to suffer. And the reason why is that there are so many planets that are about to go retrograde. Jupiter in Virgo is already retrograde. It is squaring Mars and Saturn, and remember, by Monday they will both be retrograde. And it is trining Pluto, which on Monday will be retrograde in Capricorn. And then by the end of the month, Mercury will be retrograde in Taurus. So the planets that are wonderfully aspecting each other right now among the grand trine and earth signs are still going to be there at the end of the month, but all of them will be going retrograde or backward. So there is going to be a shift now, not only to practical concerns, but we are going to have to review facts and review budgets. And a lot of things can come to light as we go through some sort of a review right now. And that is why you really have to think seriously about what you're doing and how it will affect you in the long run, or if you are managing your money or even making enough money right now to last in the long run. In other words, can you afford the future? And so those are questions that we can all be thinking about right now. However, at the same time, there are 5 planets in the cardinal signs that are harshly squaring and opposing each other today. And what that means is that there can be some people with very strident opinions and attitudes that are going to harden their attitudes. They're not going to soften them at all, because the cardinal signs, Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn, hold strong views, and they see things either as black and white, right or wrong, and they don't see shades of gray. They're pretty convinced of their own attitudes. And today, the moon in Cancer, which is very powerful because that's the sign it rules, is squaring all 3 planets in Aries, the Sun, Venus, and Uranus. At the same time, Pluto in Capricorn is also squaring all 3 planets in Aries, and then Pluto in Capricorn is opposing the moon in Cancer. Pluto is backed up. It's part of the grand trine in earth signs. But the moon in Cancer is at home in the sign it rules. It's very powerful, and it is being trined by Neptune in Pisces, which is also at home in the sign it rules. In fact, those are the 2 strongest planets in the heavens today. And so as people harden their attitudes, or they sort of sit on their side of the fence and refuse to compromise, that can be going on right at the same time when we all have to look over our budgets a little bit more closely. And there may have to be some sacrifices made, or there can be people that have been covering things up, and that could come to light. And when that happens, that could also create some sort of havoc or sudden change in people's plans. And we have to sort of be on the lookout for something that is unstable or that could happen quite suddenly as well. And it might happen suddenly, but to the detriment of someone. Okay, what does this mean to all 12 of the sun signs? Well, Aries, certainly you can be in the mood for love. And the reason why is you have both love planets in your sun sign, Uranus and Venus, and they are joining the sun. And those 3 planets in your sun sign are trining Mars and Saturn in Sagittarius. By Monday, both of those planets will be retrograde or going backward and a little bit weaker. So you're not going to have quite the support that you have enjoyed lately Aries, and on top of that, the moon in Cancer is squaring your sun sign, and so is Pluto in Capricorn, indicating there may be some budget cuts, or you might have to be a little bit more careful with your money, Aries, just in order to make it in the long run. And also with the moon being so powerful in Cancer and squaring all the planets in your sign, there is the possibility of some sort of disruption in your family life, or there can be somebody who may want to be moving on, or there is the possibility that you might have to move on for one reason or another. So you have that to look forward to as well. What you have to be careful about is the fact that there could be some sort of sudden change going on that really would affect you, and you may not have as much room to bounce off from a sudden change and go in a different direction. In other words, you have to think a little bit more of the long run right now, Aries, and that is not an Aries trait. Aries is the sign of the pioneer. You like to just get off and get going. But you're going to have to slow down, particularly by the end of the month when there are 5 retrograde planets. And so I think that you should anticipate having to redo something, or having to go back and renegotiate something, Aries. And you also might want to anticipate some sort of financial cut. And for that reason, I urge you not to spend too much money right now, because I think you're going to need it later on. Okay, what does it mean to a Taurus? Well, Taurus, this is a time when I think you're doing okay. And the reason why is that grand trine in earth signs is certainly benefiting you, Taurus, and that's because Mercury in your sign is beautifully trining Jupiter in Virgo, and Mercury is the ruler of Virgo, so that's a good aspect. And that simply means that by careful book work, and by paying attention to your accounts, and by trying to improve your health in one way or the other, you might be rather pleased with all of those small efforts, because they're adding up right now, Taurus, which is great. But also your sign rules investments, and you could be looking at an investment that you've already made that has increased over time. And so in the long run, you could either be contemplating keeping that and just going with that, or you may want to redo something. You may want to sell one investment due to tax concerns, or else you might want to put that money into something else. Whatever happens, I think that you're doing well right now, Taurus, which is good, because the next new moon is in your sun sign, and there are going to be a lot of planets in your sun sign when that happens in May. And so I think that you may be sort of getting your second wind and deciding you're going to work even harder. And that could be due to something surprising behind the scenes that has happened recently or is about to happen. It might be something that you're planning. But that is because there's so many planets in Aries right behind your sun sign, and that sign has been activated quite a bit. So if there is a change in the background of your life, I think that you're doing some good practical thinking right now, and that you can be taking the right steps, Taurus. So I hope you have a lot of confidence right now. No matter what's happening, I think that you're going to do okay. And you may be working a lot harder in May, but it might be for more money, which is something that you'd like. Okay, what does it mean to a Gemini? Well, Gemini, the good news for you is that there are going to be a lot of retrograde planets by the end of the month, 5 of them, and that's half the planets up there, and so that is going to slow things down a little bit, and I think you could stand to take a breather, Gemini. There aren't any planets in the air signs right now, but your ruler, Mercury, is right behind your sign in Taurus. So in the background of your life, Gemini, I think you got your mind on money, or on something that's sort of expensive, or at least on an investment. And you could be thinking more and more about that. It might be that you can afford something a little nicer, or you may want to sell one thing and sort of trade up right now, which you could do. However, not all your problems are solved, because Jupiter in Virgo is still squaring your sun, but it is retrograde and a little bit weaker, which means that you have to be more careful with facts and figures and double check them, but that is to your advantage. It just takes more work. And Neptune in Pisces is squaring your sun. It's going to stay that way for years, and that simply means that behind the scenes people are not telling you everything, but you might be better off not knowing either, Gemini, because this is simply a time when I think that you can take a breather, because Mars and Saturn in Sagittarius will both be retrograde by Monday, and they oppose your sun, and they have been causing you a lot of problems. And that is because jealous, greedy people or people with old grudges could be trying to attack you. They may have been doing that for months now. But now that both those planets are going retrograde, it simply means it's going to weaken those planets. And that means the people that have been sort of challenging you harshly right now are going to have to back off a little bit. And I think it's because they have problems of their own. Those problems aren't going to go away either. And so I think that you're going to get a brief respite right now. And as the planets build up in Taurus in anticipation of the next new moon in May, you will have a great deal of support behind you, Gemini. In fact, you've got a lot of it now, because the 3 planets in Aries and then Mercury in Taurus are all right behind your sun sign. So you do have more support than you realize, Gemini, and you have weathered a storm. I'm not saying that you're happy about it, but I think that, you know, you're still standing, so I think you're doing okay. And it's going to get better, particularly by your birthday. Okay, what does it mean to a Cancer? Well, Cancer, remember I said that the moon is in your sign. It's at the 29th degree today, actually, and that simply means it's the degree of fate. And since your sign rules endings, Cancer, and the moon in your sign is beautifully trining Neptune in Pisces, which is also at home in the sign it rules. So the moon and Neptune are the 2 strongest planets in the heavens right now because they're so well placed and they're trining each other. And that simply means, Cancer, that I think that you are ready to call it a day on something. I think you are going to end something. And what I think it's related to is your past. I think that you're done with something. And that is because you're either tired of it, or you've outlived it or outgrown it, or you just simply would rather move on to something that is more spiritually satisfying to you, Cancer. So whether you're redecorating your home and upgrading it, or whether you are deciding to branch out and perhaps work in different ways with people, almost as if they're family, whether they are or are not, it can be that you're ready to embrace others right now. And in order to do that, you would have to give something up. But maybe it's time, Cancer, because, you know, you can't keep playing the same role forever, because we all advance, we all grow, we all change. And so I think this is a time when you're ready to give something up. And you know, that's really nice, because it means that you are going to be able to flourish and to flower in a brand new way that will make you happier. Okay, what does it mean to a Leo? Well, Leo, this is a time when I think that you can have your eye on something a little pricey. And the reason why is that Mercury is the only planet in a fixed sign right now. Yours is a fixed sign. And Mercury in Taurus is squaring your sun. So you may have your mind on something that's pretty expensive that you would like to invest in. Taurus is the sign of investments. But you may not exactly know where the money's coming from. And it's possible that you have to sort of redo your bookwork or your banking or your accounts or your budget in some way in order to afford something in the future. But you might be able to do that because there could be other opportunities on your horizon, and some of them could stimulate some finances or some money that can help you afford something nicer, Leo. And that's because the 5 planets in fire signs are all trining your sun sign. They are getting a little weaker though, because by Monday both Mars and Saturn in Sagittarius will be retrograde. And they will be joining other planets, a total of 5 of them, that will be retrograde by the end of the month. So you may have to go back and sort of see what you've got that perhaps you could part with. Maybe you can sell something in order to afford something nicer. And that is possible, Leo, so I hope you give that a try. Okay, what does it mean to a Virgo? Well, Virgo, This is simply a time when you can be satisfied with all the careful work and problem solving you've been doing for months. And the reason why you can be satisfied with that is because with Jupiter retrograde in your sign, you have been going back and rechecking things over and over again to think through everything and make sure that you have looked at every detail and that you haven't omitted anything, which is good. It's particularly good right now because there is a grand trine in the earth signs. And so you are a person who can really be thinking of matters that are connected to the long run. And that is because Jupiter in your sign is trining Pluto in Capricorn, and Capricorn rules retirement, assets and funds, and those planets are trining Taurus, which rules investments. So you may be looking at all of that and deciding if you want to redo something. You may be wanting to sell one thing and buy another, or you may be wanting to further your investments in one way or another. Or there is the possibility, since Capricorn rules the 10th house of career, when you can be looking for some sort of promotion or upgrade in management or in a title, or you can be wanting to take on more responsibility. And I think that a lot of people would agree that you are the right person to do that, Virgo. So I think things are looking real good for you. Just keep going. And the fact that Mars and Saturn are still squaring your sun means that you do have to put up with people who have been critical of you and challenging you for no reason whatsoever, no valid reason. But those planets will be retrograde by Monday, so even your enemies are not going to be bothering you that much. And so this is a good time for you to advance if you can, Virgo. Good luck. Okay, what does it mean to a Libra? Well, Libra, this is a time when I think you might feel as if you're sort of caught between a rock and a hard place. And the reason why is there are 5 planets in the cardinal signs, and yours is a cardinal sign. And your ruler, Venus, is opposing your sun sign. So Pluto in Capricorn is squaring your sun sign, which means that management may not agree with everything you want to do right now, or policies cannot all be working in your favor. And the moon today is at 29 degrees of Cancer and squaring your sun, which is an indication that there may be a move on your horizon, or it can be that there is a problem with a woman or something that's got to be worked out in a relationship. And I don't think it's quite possible to solve it all at the moment. So I would just be real quiet if I were you. And then the Sun, Uranus, and your own ruler, Venus, are opposing your sun sign. If you have made a hasty move or any kind of hasty change recently, you might be starting to regret it. But I don't think there's anything you can do about it at the moment, Libra. So just try to muddle through. And that is because by June, things will be working out much better for you. So I hope that you would just develop a great deal of patience right now. Because even while being patient, you can be peaceful. And that's the way you like to operate anyway. Okay, what does it mean to a Scorpio? Well, Scorpio, this is a time when I think that you can be pleased with some careful financial planning that you have been doing for a while. And you can be sort of seeing that you do have all your eggs in the right baskets right now. And that is because the moon in Cancer is trining your sun, and Neptune in Pisces is also trining your sun. And they are very strong planets because they're at home in the sign they rule. And so you may be thinking about matters connected with your home or your family, or wanting to do something that could help you make a dream come true, or do something charitable for others, and all of that is quite possible right now. Mercury in Taurus is opposing your sun sign, so you might be hearing news about investments right now, but I would say with both of your rulers being retrograde by Monday, Mars and Pluto are both going retrograde on Monday, I would say that it would be wiser of you, Scorpio, just to backtrack a little bit and double check things, because there can be some problem that may come up connected with credit, debt, taxes, insurance companies, inheritance, or with money laundering. And that is why you want to be a little bit careful right now, because things could get a little expensive, particularly if you've been gambling or are involved in any kind of a cover-up. So with your rulers going retrograde, I would slow down if I were you. and be content with what you've got. Okay, what does it mean to a Sagittarius? Well, Sagittarius, this is simply a time when I think that you are going to have to reverse yourself in one way or another. And that is because both planets in your sign will be retrograde by Monday, and they will be joining other planets that will also be retrograde. And by the end of the month, there'll be 5 of them like that. So I think you're going to have to go back now and sort of clean up something. Or if you have been putting something off for a very long time, Sagittarius, you're not going to be able to do that any longer, because there will be a reason why you have to go back and address an issue. And it might be to finish it up, which would be a good idea. But still, I think that you're going to have to backtrack. And it might involve finances, particularly a financial matter that hasn't been solved yet, but I don't think you can wait any longer, so I hope you do that. Okay, what does it mean to a Capricorn? Well, a Capricorn, this is simply a time when I think that it's wonderful that your sign is involved in a grand trine in Earth signs, because it means that you really can be thinking of the long run, but that's what you like to do anyway. And it can be that you have been very careful in your accounting for months now, and you have some good results to show for that. And in fact, you can be feeling more secure about the long run. There is also the possibility that an investment can be a little more valuable than you thought it was, and you may be deciding to sell that and make yourself even more financially secure. Well, that's a good idea. Whatever happens, when Pluto goes retrograde on Monday in your sign and Mars goes retrograde on Monday in Sagittarius, there will be a financial matter that has to be looked at again. And I think with your careful, methodical way of doing things, that would be a good idea. There may even have been some information which has been kept from you that could do you a lot of good. So it's nice that things are going to slow down, because I think you work best when you can just take one step at a time. So you might actually be in your element and be very happy by the time of the May new moon in Taurus. Okay, what does it mean to an Aquarian? Well, Aquarius, this is simply a time when I think that you're going to have to be real careful, because there aren't any planets in the air signs, and Mercury is in Taurus squaring your sun sign, and that simply means if you've got your eye on something pretty expensive, I'd rethink that if I were you, Aquarius, because when the planets slow down and are all retrograde by the end of the month, it simply means that people have to go back and they particularly have to redo their budgets. And that means that if you have been promised any money, Aquarius, I would say don't count it till it's in your hand. Don't count on it until it's in your hand, because there can be some reversals, financial reversals coming up. And that is because things could change, and some things could change quite suddenly. And so, you know, you could really have the very best intentions right now, but I would say keep your hands in your pocket, Aquarius, and do not spend any extra money right now. You might need it pretty soon. Okay, what does it mean to a Pisces? Well, Pisces, it's wonderful that the moon in Cancer is trining your sun, because it's at home in the sign it rules, and it's trining Neptune in your sign, which rules it. And so I think this is a time when there may have been a change in a family matter, or there could be some sort of move that can do you a lot of good, Pisces. And so that's good. Or a family matter can change in a way that is a little bit more peaceful right now and more agreeable, which is great. And on top of that, Mars and Saturn in Sagittarius will be retrograde by Monday, and so they will not be able to challenge you quite as forcefully as they have been doing. So I think things are going to ease for you, Pisces, which is good. It doesn't mean that everything is wonderful. You still have to pay a lot of attention to details and to improving your health. But I do think things can work out a little bit better for you right now. And I think that you can just have a little bit more peace of mind yourself, or relationships can be going better right now, which is great. All right, thanks so much for tuning in. Remember, you can see the show anytime you want by subscribing to it on our website, starborninstitute.org.